lonesome. Until I first met you, I was lonesome. And when you came inside, dear, my heart grew light and this whole world seemed new to me. You're really swell, I have to admit you deserve expressions that really fit you. And so I've racked my brain hoping to explain all the things that you did to me. Mere Mr. Shane, please let me explain. Mere Mr. Shane means you're grand. Mere Mr. Shane, again I'll explain. It means you're the fairest in the land. It means you're the fairest. It means you're the fairest. It means you're the fairest in the land. Shane means you're grand. Mere Mr. Shane, again I'll explain. It means you're the fairest in the land.
Greetings from the Andrews sisters. I'm Patty.
I'm Maxine.
And I'm Laverne.
Say Bella, Bella, even say wunderbar. Each language only helps me tell you how grand you are. I've tried to explain mere Mr. Shane, so kiss me, kiss me, kiss. I say that you will understand.
Hey man, you gotta put me on the show sometime, okay? I need it. And I was like, I don't know, man. My people will talk to your people, and we'll figure it out, right? And, so, and I realized, dude, over the course of the past couple of years, I think it wasn't even a character. I've become Stanley. I mean, you know me. I've worn like these glasses for like most of my.
That's true. By the way, we're live.
Oh,
Hello,
hey.
everyone, and welcome back to another That 20-somethings show. That's right, it's me, Sundance Streams, and we've got Adrian right on the other side of the screen here.
What it do, cuz?
What it do? It is what it is. And we are back for Wish Upon a Star. We're doing another episode of That 20-somethings show. This episode is Wish Upon a
Brought
Star.
to you by...
Brought to you by the Johnson & Johnson Company. No.
That's Johnson, but it's S-E-N.
E-N, yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Johnson and Johnson.
It's actually J-A-H-N too, which just confuses everybody. It's more like Janssen. But
yeah, and they're not your typical toiletries kind of company. It's more like, it's like prescription clothing.
I was wondering where you were going with that. You didn't disappoint, that's for sure. Prescription, clothing. So anyway, welcome back to another episode of That 20-somethings show. We are here to talk to you a little bit today about fairy tales.
And we mean a little bit.
A little bit about fairy tales and fables and all kinds of other craziness.
Nah, I'll probably talk a little more than a little bit. I think growing up has been one of my biggest, not like obsessions, but like, it's what I was more drawn to,
Oh yeah.
just I guess literature in general, but I don't know what it was about, fairy tales, especially like when you actually read the old fairy tales, you come to think of it like, that's not at all what what I'm used to.
That is not what I learned as a child.
And honestly, I was gonna say it originally, like, there's one person we can thank for bringing fairy tales into the world, and that is Walt Disney.
That is true.
Gentlemen, Walt Disney invented fairy tales, and I'm gonna anger a lot of people. And plus, it hurt a lot when I just said it.
So back in the beginnings of fairy tales, Walt Disney, no.
Who penned the original fairy tales.
Yes. In fact, he is credited as being both a fairy and having a tail. So, hence...
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I thought that was Don Bluth, but that's...
What are we even talking about?
I don't know. I don't know why I'm talking trash about either. I love Disney and I love Don Bluth.
Me too. It's fine.
I was watching The Rescuers last night because, I'm a sad 26-year-old who needs to grasp to his childhood, I guess. But
yeah.
No, I was watching The Rescuers and I realized, Don Bluth worked on that project, back when he was still on Disney.
Oh, yeah, really?
Yeah.
That's awesome. I did not know that. I had no idea. But yeah, that's pretty awesome. I love, so speaking of which, The Rescuers, that's not one of those fairy tales. That's like a Disney original, though. Isn't it?
No, it's based on a book series.
That's right. Yeah, because what is a Disney original? There is no such
thing. They merged two plots from two different books, I believe.
Got you. That makes sense.
In fact, for those of you who have seen Rescuers, originally before they made Madame Medusa as like the villain, it was supposed to be. They originally thought of making a Cruella de Vil until they realized until they went, well, they're two different book properties, so maybe let's respect that. But I don't know. But eventually they went with Madame Medusa. But I would like they had like this whole concept thing in which she's not even wearing furs anymore, but she switched to like alligator leather, which I thought was kind of interesting.
Right? Just Cruella in like alligator stilettos and like just
and she's gone badass.
yeah. Riding a motorcycle with DeVille on the license plate, or Evil on the license plate.
I don't know about you, dude, but I'm pumped for this Cruella movie coming out. Like I've heard people being on like, different sides of the divide there, but I'm totally here for it, man.
Couldn't come up with Emma Stone's name for a while, but Emma Stone, that's who I was thinking of. Yeah.
I love her. Yeah.
Absolutely amazing. And well, from what I've heard and from like the interviews I've seen and stuff like that, she had a really good time with it. And when an actor has a fun time in a project, it makes me appreciate the project more regardless of anything else. Just
Yeah.
because I'm already like, well, they obviously had fun with it. They put a lot of work into it and a lot of that fun, positive energy into it. And so, like, I already feel like I'm going to like it more than I would have if I hadn't seen that interview. Because I know she enjoyed the experience and
You
she
know
had
what gives
fun.
me hope?
What?
You know what else gives me hope? The fact that Glenn Close is a producer.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, like already I'm like, if she's on board, I have a good feeling about it.
You know what's super weird is I always think that Cruella de Vil was played by Meryl Streep. I always get Glenn Close and Meryl
That-
Streep confused in
You
that.
know, I would watch
But
that.
it's because Meryl Streep did Devil Wears Prada, and I literally just get the two characters confused.
No, I see that.
Because
that.
they are
Absolutely.
the same. It's like
You know, oh my God, what was it? Was an Into the Woods. James Corden was talking about it. He was in an interview and he was talking about when he was joking around on set, especially with there was this one occasion he was joking around with Anna Kendrick
yeah.
because apparently she was like the most gullible, I guess, or he hadn't pranked her yet. But he was talking about, hey, did you hear? It's sad. It's sad what's going on. He's like, well, what's going on? Oh, you didn't hear? They fired Meryl. And she went, shut up. No, they didn't. And so, he like looks over at, I think it was like Christine Baranski. He winks at her and to like get her in on the joke. And she ended it to like the best way. Because even to the point where even James Corden, who was setting up the prank, thought, oh my God, is this for real? But they asked Christine Baranski, he's like, hey, Christine, right? Right? They got that Meryl's been fired. And so, she says, yep. They're flying in Glenn Close as we speak.
That's hilarious. That's so great.
I was like, that is the best thing.
Fire Meryl Streep. That's funny. That's probably one of the worst decisions you can ever make as like a producer is firing Meryl Streep.
If the movie says it's got Meryl Streep in it, it's chances are I'm very likely to go watch.
Yeah, woman of the century there. Like, I can't even limit it to a decade. So, like,
I remember the what year? It was like 2010, 2009 maybe. Like it was Steve Martin and Alec Baldwin hosting the Oscars, and one of my favorite things in there was that they said, they explained the process of what gets a film nominated. It has to go through like this panel, or it has to go through like all these people who are responsible for voting, which one goes and which one doesn't. And basically as they're going through it, Steve Martin goes, and then no matter what, they nominate Meryl Streep.
And then no matter what, pretty much. That's pretty accurate.
He says she has the record of most nominations, or as I like to think of it, most losses.
Most losses, yeah. Pretty much. But no, I mean, that's awesome. But yeah, I always get her and Glenn Close confused because of Cruella de Vil and
No, that's fair.
Devil Wears Prada, whatever her character's name in that is, I
Both
forget.
fine movies, to be honest.
Yeah. But yeah, speaking of which, so you, at least in our previous conversations and stuff, a lot of the fairy tales and stuff that you were introduced to at first, they were all like what I like to call the Disney, like classical Disney era. It was.
Oh, okay, yeah.
It was
like
all
pre-Renaissance.
yeah, pre-Renaissance.
Yeah.
And so, you have a ton of experience in that era. I don't have nearly as much experience. Hello. Welcome in. I love crochet. And yeah, Pablo's in the Enchanted Forest, I would assume.
I just saw a bunch of redwoods and I wanted it.
Yeah, right. But welcome in, Grandma. Thanks so much for coming. We're talking about fairy tales today. Do you have a favorite fairy tale or fable of any sort?
Or any story with any kind of fantastical theme to it. Because
Yeah.
I like to tack those in there sometimes.
I like, that kind of fantasy, the magic, all of that kind of stuff. But yeah, for me, I grew up mainly watching, I have a little bit of experience with the classical Disney, but I mainly have Disney Renaissance and beyond.
Yeah.
So the first things that I was introduced to were like Aladdin and Hercules and all of those. And also, I never, I mean, I was like a really stereotypical boy's boy when I was a boy. And so I never really watched many of the Disney princess movies.
Okay.
And of course, like, they're super underrated because a bunch of guys should watch them, especially like the new ones like Tangled.
You know what
and
drew me into it
Frozen
the
and all of
most?
those, they're so good.
What drew me in the most was
Yeah.
like the sound of it. You know, the where you can quickly tell that's a musical chorus from from like the 1950s, 1960s. You know, like from those, from like classical
Aw.
movie musicals.
Can't remember fairy tales. Oh no. Hey,
There's something very comforting and satisfying about that sound. I mean,
Oh,
yeah, go ahead.
oh yeah, for sure. Sometimes I treat life like a fairy tale, so it's fine. No, but yeah, I think you're absolutely right. There's so I'm gonna talk a lot about Peter Pan later.
Okay.
But at this point, there's the think of a magical place, or
Yeah.
that chorus, yeah, da 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 da, yeah, da 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 da,
Yeah.
you can fly, you can fly, you can fly. Like, it always reminds me of just that old Disney sound. It's super nostalgic, and it really does harken back to that era of. I mean, what I think of when I think of those choruses is actual, like, the full-on radio shows,
Yeah.
where they would bring
Exactly.
choirs and bands into a studio, and they would have a full-on radio show. Like, I love that kind of stuff, and that's what it sounds like to me. Just absolutely beautiful, and musically, it's very much like painting.
Yes.
It's just this musical
When
storytelling.
you really think about it, back then, even the art style, the backgrounds, they look like actual paintings.
They do. And yes, you do have to start watching Disney. I mean, like, from all over the board. You gotta watch all of the older ones. You gotta watch the Renaissance, because it was a completely different era of Disney. And then a lot of the new stuff that they're putting out now, especially in their animation department, is just stunning. And the stories that they're telling are so powerful and beautiful. And musically, they're just amazing and magical. And so, yeah, Disney...
Disney Plus was the best investment ever.
right. Disney, you can definitely, think poorly of the guy. Probably not the best person in the world, but he definitely did something right with his company. And, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of what we see... Yeah, The Lion King was just astonishing.
Good one.
The Lion King was one of their first uses of, like, legitimate camera techniques in animation, which is super fun. The 96 version of Lion King?
Sounds about right, yeah.
94, 96, something like that. But that version of Lion King was very much like, it was very cinematic. Like, they told that story. And that story is just Shakespeare.
Yeah.
That's just Hamlet. I mean, which is awesome. Speaking of which, Shakespeare, if we're talking about fairy tales and fables and, literature in that sense, Shakespeare was one of the first to really, I guess, popularize, very much in the sense that Disney popularized a lot of these fairy tales. They're not Disney fairy tales, they're Grimm's brother fairy tales, or they're, French fairy tales or whatever. But Shakespeare really popularized a lot of stories. And so now when we write stories and stuff like that, if it focuses on a pair of star-crossed lovers, we know it's a Romeo and Juliet story.
Yeah.
It's that kind of thing where we compare it to Shakespeare always. He was like he popularized all of those kind of storytelling devices and stuff.
Yeah.
Super cool. So yeah.
Dude, yeah, he also created so many different words in the English language.
Yeah, he knew how to paint with language. Apparently, a lot of my stream today is going to be talking about painting. on,
That's all right.
through.
I want at some point for you to just pull out a canvas and just start.
By the way, I've been taking an art class, and no, I'm just kidding.
It's just I want it to be just a crude stick figure. So
It's a crooked stick figure. I always joke. I really enjoy theater and I enjoy music, but when it comes to actual visual art like sculpting or painting or drawing or anything like that, I always joke that I draw crooked stick figures. I can't do that. Like I can't do any of that fancy
They're
stuff.
not crooked. They're italicized.
Oh, is that what it is?
Yes.
They're italicized and they may have some hip problems, but we're not
Right.
We're not worried about
We're
it.
not here to judge.
Yeah, right. But so my artistic ability in that sense, I'm not very artistically inclined visually. But
So
yeah.
So other than Peter Pan, then is there like a fairy tale that's been your favorite or that you really enjoyed in your childhood?
From childhood, so I'm gonna talk about the four movies that I grew up watching over and over and over again, and I mean like wore if any of you still remember VHS tapes, I wore the VHS tapes out for these movies, and for good reason. I mean they're absolutely incredible. So the first one of those is I just totally blanked. All of them are gone. Nope, I don't have them anymore. I'm just kidding. The first one of those is actually a different sort of story, but it is it's the rags to riches story. It's Annie. I grew up watching Annie, and I think Annie is Disney. I think Annie was Disneyified. I think the TV movie...
like the 90...
Yeah, the 97
one?
Yeah, 97, 99. It was right around there, yeah.
Yeah.
But the one with
Kathy Bates.
Yeah, yeah, there we go. Kathy Bates, Alan Cumming, Christian Chenoweth. My God, that star-studded cast. Victor something. Is that his name? Victor Garber?
Garber. I know it's Garber.
I think it's
Victor Garber. Yeah.
I think it's Victor Garber, the bald man.
Yes.
And yes, the bald man. But like all star-studded cast, and then who plays Grace? Oh my goodness.
That was Kristen Chenoweth, wasn't it?
No, Grace. Christian Chenoweth was
St.
Regis.
Yeah,
Lily
that's
St.
Regis. Yes.
But Grace was Audra? Audra, is it? That might be it.
McDonald, do you mean? I don't remember
McDonald,
her.
it might be. Yeah, she's a phenomenal Broadway talent.
And it's got to be Audra McDonald.
Yeah, African American.
Yeah,
just
has to be Audra McDonald.
Absolutely beautiful, almost operatic voice.
100% her.
Yep, it's Audra McDonald. I'm
gonna look it up just to make sure, because otherwise it's gonna bug me.
Yeah, for sure. She was absolutely incredible. But yeah, so that it was a straight to TV or a straight to, well, yeah, I guess it was straight to TV and then VHS movie. And I grew up with it, and I grew up watching that over and over and over again. And that film was absolutely delightful.
It was Audra McDonald. There it is.
Yeah, for sure. And for me, it was just super impactful. And also one of the reasons that I ended up becoming the person that I am and, wanting to do this theater thing was because Victor Garber was in it and Alan Cumming was in it, and I wanted to be Rooster. Like, I wanted that.
Yeah.
And so, it was another one of those moments where, of course, hey, Ghost Jay, thanks so much. And Linz, raiding with a party
Welcome
of 11.
back, Linz.
Welcome in, Linz. Raid, welcome. Your dogs are crazy.
I know. Everybody in this neighborhood owns one, so once one goes crazy, they all do.
Linz, thank you for the raid. It's so These are fun. Improvising is great. Linz, thank you for the raid. It's so great that you could come.
And the Raiders.
Yes! Everybody, welcome in. Thank you so much. Thanks for the
Hey, new
follow.
followers.
Ghost J, thank you for the follow. Oceana Star, thank you for the follow. Oh my goodness, we are at 98 followers now. We are so
We're
close.
so close.
Raider, I hardly know her. Who let the dogs out? That's true. Thank you.
Everyone did.
Everyone let the dogs out. But thank you guys so much for coming in. Welcome. We are discussing today fairy tales and fables and just those super uplifting stories from your childhood that still give you that little bit of hope today. Sundance let the dogs out. That is,
Or a good life lesson.
that
One
is,
of the two.
that is, yeah, or a good life lesson or anything like that. So, guys, if you have any of your favorite fairy tales or stories, does not have to be like your traditional fantasy Disney fairy tales or anything like that. Feel free to drop them in chat. We'd love to talk about them. Welcome in. Matt, Into the Woods. Into the Woods is such a good story, and it combines all of the fairy tales. Ghost J, you might want to stick around if you can, because Peter Pan is my all-time favorite, and I will be talking about the Peter Pan, as I told Adrian, ad nauseum. I will be talking about Peter Pan for a while. Wait, have you ever heard of the Snow Queen? You mean Elsa?
That story is wild.
Yeah, the Grimm fairy tale, I believe it's Grimm who wrote the Snow Queen.
No, it's Hans Christian Andersen.
Oh, yeah, duh, I knew that. Hi, I'm dumb. Hans Christian Andersen's Snow Queen, definitely, very grim. That's not what I meant. I meant the Grimm's brothers. But Peter Pan whistle is your notification alert. That's so awesome, Ghost J. I love that. But yeah, Hans Christian Andersen is another one of those that Hans Christian Andersen. Was Hans Christian Andersen German? Because that sounds German.
No, he was
Swedish, Nordic of some sort. Norwegian? One of the Polish. Maybe. That makes sense. He was one of the things, but yeah, for sure. Of Mice and Men is a great book. Absolutely. It's one of those.
Dutch? He may have been Dutch, I think.
It's one of.
It's kind of bothered me.
It's all of those. He lived up in that part of Europe. But yeah, for sure. Hans Christian Andersen wrote some of the classic fairy tales that we all know and that have, of course, been Disneyified.
He was born in Denmark. I had to look it up.
Danish.
But he was born in Denmark.
Danish. Thanks, I Love Crochet, for coming in there and swooping that.
And now
Danish
I want some Danish.
Now I want some Danish. Cheese Danish, anyone? What came first, the pastry or the country?
What's that?
What came first?
They came at the same time.
They were born together.
They said, "What should we name this town?" And this guy's like, "What should we name this treat?"
And someone went Danish, and they were like,
The
yes!
thing is, no. The long story is that they were they thought about it for like days. They kept going, "What should we name this town? Oh my god, this treat is so what name should we give?" Eventually, this one guy who's just probably the town drunk is just call it the same name, Danish. There.
And thus the Danish was born.
The town drunk. From now on, that's how it became.
I love how
Denmark.
I love how we're talking about this, and it's not even Danish; it's Denmark.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, okay, that's
Well,
great.
it's the town drunk. That makes sense.
Yeah, Danish, Denmark, whatever, same thing. But yeah, Peter Pan is probably my all-time favorite fairy tale. For those of you who don't know, who are new, both Adrian and I are theater majors. So we're actors and writers and directors because as a theater major, you can't make money by just sitting around and doing nothing. So we do a lot of things.
Unless you're a producer.
Unless you're a producer. Unless you're Drew Carey. And then you can just sit and do nothing.
God, yeah, that is what he does, isn't he?
Mm-hmm. But no, so we are both theater majors, and that means that we're writers, directors, we do all kinds of crazy stuff. And so I have actually performed in the show, the play or musical version of Peter Pan. I performed in it 3 times. And so it has obviously been very impactful throughout my life just because of that. But then also it was one of those that I grew up watching over and over again, and I own the book, and it's been a huge part of my life. And I, very much like James Barrie, the author of Peter Pan, I struggle to grow up, so super fun. Captain Hook is also my favorite. When I was in Peter Pan, the very last time I actually played Captain Hook, and that was the most fun I think I've ever had on stage. I've never seen Peter Pan all the way through. The film version? You've never seen the film version of Peter Pan all the way through? If you have Disney Plus, you are more than welcome to watch it after the little warning about how racist it is. Because, yeah, it's a little racist, but it's fine. Yeah, it is. Unless you watch the stage version, which is more accurate to the book, and then it's like almost 3 hours long. It's crazy. You've never seen Peter Pan 2, Peter Pan Return to Neverland with Jane? Oh, I love it. That one, yes, it is super good. In fact, it wasn't
one of the better Disney sequels.
Yeah, it wasn't the first use of it. I forget what the first use was, but it was one of the original uses of CGI 3-dimensional animation for Disney, because there is a full sequence in which Captain Hook's pirate ship is completely digitally animated and flies through a bunch of different buildings and all
Black
kinds of
Cauldron
crazy
was the first
stuff.
one, actually.
Yeah, it was, and they used it for the magic, but they were experimenting a lot with different digital animation. Yes, Wesley, there is a Peter Pan 2. It's called Peter Pan Return to Neverland, and it focuses around Jane, who is Wendy's daughter, and again, that's straight out of the original book. I would almost say that I like it better than the original Peter Pan, which is weird to say. Yeah, I have a bunch of weird facts about Peter Pan. I love crochet. I know a lot of history about it. It's super weird. Me and Linz are going to rewatch all the Disney movies starting with Snow White. Do it, Matt. Talk about them on your channel. That'll be awesome. Matt, I would love to at some point, if you would have me. I'd love to be a guest on there for some of them if you would have me. That would be super fun. Because I absolutely love Disney. And so, yeah. But yes, Peter Pan 2, they're both absolutely fantastic. And definitely would recommend watching them. But yeah, I was in the middle of talking about Annie. So if you don't mind, I'm going to pick up kind of where I left off right before the rate. So watching Annie growing up, I was very impacted by the strong male characters in it, especially for a musical. Neverland is heaven. Although I love the Lost Boys as well for extras. Heck yeah. Everyone come to Matt's place for Disney movie rewatch. Heck yeah.
Wear a face mask.
Yeah, everybody get their shot. But yeah, so because of Annie's strong characters, I don't know if you guys have seen Annie at all. Either the original one with Shirley Temple, that's who is in it, right?
No.
No?
No.
Carol Burnett and...
Oh, Carol Burnett was in it, yeah.
Yeah, was it not Carol Burnett and Shirley Temple?
No.
Who was
that was in the 80s.
Who was the redhead? I don't know. Then I don't know who it was.
Shirley Temple was much older then.
Sure. Uh, sh- okay, that's super nice to know. I'm super glad that I know things about Annie. No, I've only seen the 1996 or 4 version of it, or 7 or 9 or
99.
99. It's 99. Thank you. I've only seen the 99 version with Kathy Bates and um Kathy Bates, and well, we just went through all of the people that are in it. Kathy Bates, Alan Cumming, Christian Chenoweth, Victor Garber, Audra McDonald, and some girl that was also a fantastic actress in 1999, but I had no idea.
Wasn't the original Annie like from the first movie in 99? Like, didn't she have a cameo?
Maybe the NYC girl, probably.
I think so.
Sure, probably. But yeah, so I never got to see the 1982 version. Thank you very much. Aileen Quinn played Annie in the original, in the 1982 movie. But in the 99 version, I believe she did make a cameo as the NYC girl, which was super fun. But yeah, it was a super impactful movie for my childhood because I got to see that Victor Garber and Alan Cumming, these very, strong masculine characters that I looked up to, were singing and dancing, and it was one of those moments for me that I was like, oh, theater is something that guys can do too, especially growing up, wanting to do theater and choir and just surrounded by mostly girls. It was very discouraging for me. So Annie definitely helped with that. And another one that's on my list actually is Disney, but it, again, originated from a book, which was Mary Poppins. And
Gotcha.
Mary Poppins was also very impactful for me, again, because
Annie originated from a comic strip.
No way.
Yeah, Little Orphan Annie. She had no eyes. Well, I mean, she had back then it was like big wide eyes, but it was like, but it looked like she had no eyes.
But it looked terrifying. That sounds absolutely scary.
They actually use her design in the like one of the original Broadway logos, I think.
That's crazy. If you watch The Christmas Story, they mention it. No way. Had no eyes. For sure.
I learned that from the Addams Family.
That's so funny. But yeah, so Mary Poppins was the other one because of Dick Van Dyke's character. Because I absolutely loved Bert. Like, come on now, right? That was super fun. But yeah, Zombie Annie.
I'd watch that.
Yeah, I mean, I'd pretty much watch zombie anything at this
pandemic.
This stupid pandemic. They said it was
eating my flesh away.
I love that. That's so funny. Who doesn't love Bert? Wesley, you're absolutely correct. Your favorite... Oh, I cried at the mention of that name, Matt. Bridge to Terabithia.
I've been conditioned for that.
I can't handle it. Like, Bridge to Terabithia is probably the saddest thing I've ever seen. The decoder ring that Ralphie gets in the mail is from the Little Orphan Annie radio play show. No way.
Yep,
that's awesome. That's crazy. I did not know that. I'll need to rewatch Christmas Story again. I haven't seen it since I was a kid, so it's been quite a while.
I learned that they technically had sequels to Christmas Story. Like,
really?
Yeah. But mainly because it followed other short stories the original writer or author made for the Christmas Story, like some expansions.
Yeah. That's super cool. I was just reading Matt's comment. Not really my fave. Just wanted to troll you. Thanks. You literally brought me to tears.
Thanks, Matt.
I didn't know Bridge to Terabithia had 2 versions. I think Bridge to Terabithia is based on a book as well.
I think so.
But I didn't know it had 2 versions. So that's interesting. But with that, we have actually come to one of our favorite segments on this show. And so, ladies and gentlemen, hold your applause, but This segment is called On This Day in History. On this day in 1943, Rodgers and Hammerstein's first collaboration, Oklahoma, opens on Broadway.
Oh, sorry.
Whoa!
The image was just taking too long to load.
That's
But
sad.
anyway, these are our folks, guys.
Nice!
Oklahoma. It's okay.
I'm proud of you.
Thanks.
Also, yo, thanks so much, Ghost J, for the host. We appreciate it. That's awesome. It's based on a book, 2 movies, one from the 80s and the 07 version. The 07 version is definitely the one I saw with Josh Hutcherson and the girl from Winn-Dixie, whose name escapes me.
I got you. I know who she is.
Yeah, that girl. Josh Hutcherson is in one of my favorite movies of all time, which is Journey to the Center of the Earth.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say, what's that one? What's that dog movie?
Firehouse Dog?
Yes.
Also a fantastic movie. I'm a little obsessed with Josh Hutcherson.
No, Zathura was a good one.
Oh, Zathura was awesome. Dakota Fanning? Was that really it? Is that her name? I definitely thought Dakota Fanning was somebody else, but that's fine. That's acceptable, Matt.
Most girls from that time period.
They all look alike.
They
They're
look
all
alike
the
to me.
same. They're all the same.
They were all in the same movie. To me.
To be honest, Zathura was actually awesome. It isn't okay. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe Zathura is actually based on a sequel book to Jumanji.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Same guy who wrote Jumanji.
Yeah.
Wrote the book for Zathura.
Yeah, and Zathura. So
Jack Black actually considers it canon to like the Jumanji franchise.
yeah, I'm pretty sure. Yeah. Yeah, it was some other white blonde chick for sure. I get them all confused. I don't know. But it does low-key slap. And to be honest, I actually watched Zathura before I saw Jumanji, and I thought Jumanji was the Safari version of Zathura and not the other way around.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Also, yeah, for sure. High key slapped, for sure. Yeah, Zathura was awesome. And who was the guy that was in it? The astronaut.
Oh, Dax Shepard.
Yeah, was
Married
that
to
Dax
Kristen Bell.
Shepard? Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right. That's right. Wait, oh, your favorite? Oh, what a
Rodgers
great
and Hammerstein,
story
that's a
too.
good one, yeah.
Carousel. Yeah, I totally forgot about that. Yeah, because that's with Bill, right? Bill, like Bill's soliloquy and all of that kind of stuff. That's Carousel, I believe. I sang Bill's soliloquy, so I should really know this.
That's a good one, yeah.
But yeah, Dax Shepard and the lead girl in Twilight played the...
That's right.
I've never seen Twilight, so I didn't realize that, but I just remembered that there was a sister character in it. I forgot that
The
happened.
one who crushes on Dax Shepard.
And it's her bro... Oh! All of it just
I
came
know.
in. Oh, yeah, and she gets...
Hey, don't spoil it for the audience.
I'm sorry, and you've had years. Get over it. No, and she gets frozen in the bathroom for like a turn or whatever. That's hilarious.
Yeah, that was funny.
Don't forget about Kristen Stewart. Kristen Stewart?
Yeah, that's you were just talking about her.
The daughter?
Yeah,
I didn't
the
know.
sister. That's Kristen Stewart.
I didn't know that was Kristen Stewart. All I knew was that it was the lead girl in Twilight. So that's all I had in my head. I don't know names. Do you think I memorize actors' names? That's funny. Yeah, you definitely, Wesley, you definitely need to check out Zathura. Although I definitely just spoiled a little bit of it for you. Oh well.
Still a good watch.
But yeah, still it's a fantastic movie, and you'll be on the edge of your seat. Or at least I was when I was a child. It might not be as impactful now. I just realized being in my 20s is a little bit different than literally being 12. So, but it's Adrian's job. Yeah, it's Adrian's job to remember names. Is Zathura the same thing as Jumanji? It's the space version of Jumanji. Jumanji is what I
What's in that mug?
Mr. Dean. No, but
Calling the dean.
when he wanted a football signed by Brett Favre.
That was funny.
You've never seen Jumanji, Linz? Jumanji's excellent.
Oh, it's so good.
Yeah,
That's Robin Williams.
It has
What's not
Robin
to
Williams
like?
in it. Also, if you watch the new Jumanji 2, it's also really well done, and
It's canon too to the first one.
yeah,
It's technically a sequel. It's very much a sequel. It's straight up a sequel.
wait, Nick Jonas. Is Nick Jonas in the?
Yeah,
Oh
he was
yeah,
the
Nick
pilot.
Jonas is the. Yeah, that's. I remember that. Have you seen, Linz? Have you seen the new version of Jumanji with Jack Black and Nick
So
Jonas
good.
and The Rock and Kevin Hart and that other girl who I don't know any women's names.
You don't
None
know
of
women,
them.
do you?
I don't know women at all.
I'm starting to track down on the problem here.
I don't know any women. I have realized that there is not a single woman's name that I have gotten correct today. So,
You got Kathy Bates.
well, I mean, it's Kathy Bates. It's hard to
Yeah.
get that one wrong.
I think it's just the younger actresses you forget about.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Linz, you need to get on it. Only men, because guess what? That's what we look for. The men. Thank you, Matt. I appreciate you. I don't know any women. Love that. Matt and Linz need
That's
to watch
awesome.
all the Jumanji movies this weekend. That is for sure.
Yeah.
That is pretty accurate. You guys definitely should. They're definitely worth a watch. They're pretty fantastic. But yeah, I never actually watched the original Jumanji for a long time. I never saw it. Like I said, I saw Zathura before I saw it. So it was very interesting to watch it. Not the new ones. You should definitely check out the new ones. That's your homework assignment. Watch all of them. All of them, including Zathura. Throw it into the list.
Yes.
It's canon. It's part of the universe. So definitely do it. But yeah, what were some of the fairy tales that were most impactful for you growing up, Adrian?
For me, there was a bit of them. One that I like you did that I wore the tape on. I wore it out was Pinocchio.
For those of you who don't know what he's talking about a VHS tape.
Yes.
They were these things that were around before Blu-ray, and then actually before Blu-ray was DVDs, and then
It's like,
before DVDs.
Imagine two of these, right, inside a plastic box, kind of like this, but like bigger and thicker.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and then you would put
the
it
movie
in,
was in there.
and you know how you fast forward a DVD and rewind it? Well, rewind actually comes from the fact that you had to wind the film on the VHS tape. So that was a real thing. Anyway.
Yes. Hence Be Kind Rewind.
Yes. No, but go ahead.
Thank you.
You wore the VHS out on it.
On Pinocchio. But when I really got into reading as a child, I would I'd get Pinocchio, the story. That first of all, that story was dark. But because it had all these different things, like Pinocchio eventually gets like hung to a tree, like by a tree, and it's dark imagery. But overall, it was an interesting story. Another one that I really like, I don't know why it was, but I think it's just the fact that it's like a puppet. I really love puppets. If anybody knows me, like I'm not to my own horn. I'm pretty good at making puppets, but
Yeah.
I think it stemmed from my love for Pinocchio, and yeah, I don't know. I think it had a very Toy Story appeal to me, I guess. But
Adrian, you're not gonna bring a toy to life. You can't do it. I'm sorry.
watch me.
Watch me. Nah.
I go Frankenstein on it. No, but
It's alive. Another great
one for
story,
me.
by the way.
Yes,
Frankenstein is
absolutely.
a fantastic story. Anyway, go ahead.
But another one for me that I really enjoyed was the story of Rumpelstiltskin, and
yeah.
mainly in the context that I was, English was my second language, and a lot of my learning came from reading books, and I like reading fairy tales in English to kind of get it. Not the old English, of course. I didn't want to climb Mount Everest or anything, but at least some modern, like modern retellings, or just transcribed to more modern English. But
Yeah.
I read Rumpelstiltskin mainly because of how challenging it is to say his name. Rumpelstiltskin as a
Which is
non-English speaker.
hilarious because isn't that like part of
No,
Rumpelstiltskin's
exactly.
story?
That's why I loved it, because because at first I was like, why is it called Rumpelstiltskin? Like, I don't get it. And I was reading the story and I was like, oh, that is awesome. And then I realized, like, yeah, it's no wonder he picked that name. It's hard to say, and let alone hard to guess. And to me, it added another layer of appreciation to it. So I really love the story of Rumpelstiltskin.
That's great.
And the thing is, like, they've changed his names in like other countries and anything, but in Spanish, I remember it was like ruido quedito, which translates to little sound. And I'm like, does that mean little sound? But I don't know. But like, I like the thought of like all these different versions having different names to it.
Yeah.
But
makes it
no,
even
like,
harder to guess his name.
Exactly. No, because I thought, oh, that's smart. He's smart. And and one of my favorite shows of all time is Once Upon a Time. And when they made, they gave a whole like character and like a whole meaningful arc to Rumpelstiltskin, I was like, that's awesome, because you don't really see that much media interpretations of Rumpelstiltskin. Like, sure, there's Shrek in that one movie.
Right.
And you'll see like a couple specials on like a kids TV show, but you don't see very many iterations of Rumpelstiltskin. So I thought that was an interesting take on it.
To be honest, and this is another thing that I was going to talk about for a while too, is ABC's Once Upon a Time.
Oh, dude, absolutely. We're definitely going to talk about that.
So I actually legitimately had never heard of Rumpelstiltskin until
Really?
ABC's Once Upon a Time. Yeah. And then when I heard about him, I was like, that's interesting. I've got to figure this out. And I read up more and I was like, oh, I had never heard that fairy tale before. Never looked into it. But yeah, I just want to catch up on chat real quick.
Yeah.
Ghost J was saying Disney drops a hint in every movie about the next release.
It's like an Avengers movie, really.
It kind of is. And yeah, both Pixar and Disney do that. Pixar is more notorious for adding like Easter eggs to their entire universe. And the Pixar universe, I believe, is all the same world. Like it's all genuinely the same place.
Yeah.
And so they do that a lot, which is very interesting. Let's see. Oceana Star makes sense because the older movies all have storybook openings, but fairy tales at the time were popular. Yeah. Technically they both do now, but he had a dark backstory, right, in the original fairy tale. Rumpelstiltskin, I believe he did, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I believe
he splits himself in half. Like he like shoves his foot into the ground and gets it stuck and eventually just rips himself in half and like in a raging fit. It was very vivid imagery, but it was impactful like that. That's why it stays like very branded in my mind.
For sure. And I think I was talking with somebody else about this. I can't remember. I only talked to like 7 people, so who knows. But
I like how we're back to being children, like little 8-year-olds. Like all I know is 7 people.
Yeah, really, that's it. But Linz, I was talking to somebody about ABC's Once Upon a Time and the character of Regina and how absolutely amazing she is.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't know if any of you have seen Once Upon a Time all the way through, but they do have that soft reboot season. I believe it's season
7.
7. Okay, I thought it was 8. Season 7, where Regina comes back as someone else, which is fantastic. And Linz, I highly recommend the last season. I definitely want you to go into it, however, knowing that it is a soft reboot. It's basically like
still canon, still full continuation, but it's just a different setting.
It's a completely different story. So it's like you have to remove the expectation that it's just going to be a straight continuation, and you have to go, okay, this has to be a little bit different.
Yeah, no, it's
Linz,
still
give it the benefit of the doubt. It's so good. It has
Yeah,
My
it's
top 5 episodes are in that season. So
it's first what 2-3 episodes are basically build up for you to like get the sense of this
yeah.
new setting, because I mean it is a new setting, you got to get used to it. But yeah, just get past those first couple episodes and I promise you it's a good experience. It's a good watch.
Definitely a good watch. But yeah, Once Upon a Time, just very similarly to Into the Woods, does a really good job at mixing fairy tales and telling new I guess twists on fairy tales that everybody's already heard.
And that's why I really like it, because growing up a Mexican child, I'm very, I guess I have a very soft spot for anything that relates to like the convolutedness of a telenovela plot.
Yeah.
And just seeing that done in a whole like fairy tale aspect, just having all these, it was just a long telenovela of fairy tale characters, and I was here for the whole ride.
Linz, you're just not smart enough for Big Bang Theory.
Ooh. Wow.
I just thought I'd throw that one out there. Shots fired. Anyway, yeah, no.
We're gonna get canceled.
Yeah, we are. We're gonna get canceled. No, I'm too smart for Big Bang Theory. Oh, okay.
So you'll be just smart enough for Once Upon a Time. Go ahead.
Whatever. But yeah, definitely. Once Upon a Time, just in general, is absolutely fantastic. Don't take a shot at my friend's wife.
Hey, we're friends with the husband.
Yeah. Wait a minute. That's
if anything,
my
I would have been on the
friend's wife.
husband's side of the wedding.
Wait a minute, that's my friend's wife. Wait a minute, that's my friend. Like, hold on a second.
Wait a minute.
No, but anyway, yeah. So I think the other thing that I think is very interesting about Once Upon a Time is that not only does it mix the traditional Disney fairy tales that ABC would have the rights to and completely monopolizes, but then also because now you can't do any sort of creative thing because Disney. But I think another thing that they do really well is intermixing non-Disney fairy tale stuff. Yes, we can talk about Captain Hook in that show. Fine. But yeah, they do a good job with intermixing the non-Disney fairy tales, and they do a really good job at mixing the eras of Disney too. Like,
oh yeah,
they have Snow White and Elsa in the same room. Like, two very different. I guess they're both. Was Snow White Hans Christian Andersen too, or was Snow White Grimm?
That was Grimm's. That was Grimm, I believe.
Well, never mind. I don't know anything about Disney. Goodbye, folks.
But originally the huntsman, who was the sheriff in the first season, he was originally going to be Sherlock Holmes, but they didn't have the rights back then, so they eventually made him the huntsman.
Really?
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Like his whole thing would be that in the curse he's trapped in a place where there's no
there's no crime.
No big crime, no big case no big mystery to solve.
That's
like, and I was like, that's kind of cool.
That's actually pretty great. Yeah, I do love that, and I love the idea of having these cursed lives and stuff like that. That's super interesting to me. In fact, Adrian and I were gonna show our nerdy selves. We consistently.
We always do.
Yeah, I don't know why that's a surprise to anyone, but we consistently play D&D, and in this fashion, it's a little more just a regular like tabletop RPG. It's not necessarily D&D. We don't play by like 5th edition rules or anything like that. It's kind of just create
our own rules.
Yeah, we kind of create our own rules, but it's still the concept of D&D. And the setting is Once Upon a Time.
Yeah, because how can you not?
Yeah, and so basically, we started this a couple of years ago?
Yeah, a couple years ago.
It's been a hot while, so.
But we've taken breaks in between.
Yeah, of course, but I've basically been playing just one-on-one, and what we've been doing is like I've been playing a character who's cursed and has to eventually break a curse, and they're in a full town with all of these cursed people, just like Once Upon a Time. It's been super fun. I love the storytelling of fairy tales because I think the platform of fairy tales, just as a concept, gives you so much to work with.
And I'm glad you say that, because there's, that's the cool thing about fairy tales, that you can definitely know what kind of story it is by the classification it has. Because I'm not sure if you're familiar with the R. Thompson type of what's this? Oh, the categories.
You got to put a space in between the word and the number. Or that. Yeah. Anyway, continue. Sorry.
But yeah, no, sorry. There's what was I saying? The R. Thompson classification, in which there's like a specific code to these different fairy tales and stories.
Sorry.
Kind of classify what.
I don't mean to interrupt, but I think Lynn's just doesn't understand what good film is.
God.
Because she's like knocking on Big Bang Theory, and I'm like, okay, it's not everybody's
Jacob,
cup of tea.
Sundance, art is subjective.
But like, now she's saying that Maleficent is the worst, and I'm sitting here like, excuse me?
Everyone has their own taste.
Okay.
Sundance, it's okay.
Whatever.
Art is subjective.
whatever. But yes, you're right. Twisted by Star Kid is very good.
That was fun.
And I
yes.
do like fairy tales from villains' perspectives. I'm sorry. Go ahead and continue, Adrian.
You're fine, but they basically follow this classification that a lot of historians and I guess story lovers use to kind of put each story into like a specific kind of trope or category that it belongs to, and also tracks down the evolution of these stories. Because the cool thing about it was that fairy tales were just done orally at first. You had it was all word of mouth, all hearsay, and of course everybody who retells it will sometimes even add a different detail, change it up, because that they feel is better done. But that's what I kind of like about history behind fairy tales. I think that's really what drew me to it the most. But you get all these different classifications, like boy defeats ogre, or like the rags to riches kind of thing, or brother helps sister, like all these different stories that fall under a certain umbrella. And I think that's just pretty awesome. It's like how you have something so uniform to something so whimsical and just fantastical to it.
Yeah,
I love that so much.
And like you're saying, it's very uniform, but at the same time, just giving you that one set of rules allows that creativity to just flow. Because
3s and 7s are also very prominent in stories, because I remember you talking about how you like format and all these different things.
Yeah, absolutely. So like 3s, obviously, like
yes.
We have to do this to solve this to defeat this.
Yes.
That's a story arc. Like it's those 3 different events happening. That's very common in a lot of different film and stories and stuff like that. But with the structure, what I love is, Dora.
Yes, Matt. Dora always had 3 events.
Yes.
I love that.
I'm sorry. I'm out. I'm done. I can't.
I'll take over from here.
Of course you will. It's Dora. Anyway.
Yeah.
But Frozen is fantastic, Matt. So don't even come at it like that. No.
Guys, think of this as like we're children in a playground. Let's just have fun, okay?
How did that happen?
What?
Sorry. I got it. They requested Lost in the Woods. Maybe if you guys are good, I'll sing it before the end of the night. But,
right.
Even though it's not that type of stream. Anyway, no. So what I really like about format is, boy defeats ogre. That kind of format, or prince rescues princess. You know, that sort of format there is, you can have a million stories that all tell that story.
That's why a lot of fairy tales sound similar.
Yeah, but at the same time, they're all different, and they all come from different backgrounds, and they all have different feels to them, and they all have, you know, they're all so different.
Yeah.
That one of the things that brings to mind is the two princes from Into the Woods.
Right.
Because
Yes.
they're both, it's the same story. They're both living the same life, but at the same time, they're both so different. You know, Cinderella's prince and Rapunzel's prince are two very different stories. You know, Cinderella and Rapunzel are very different, but at the same time, the prince that's going through this story is dealing with the exact same things. They're dealing with the
And
exact same obstacles. You know?
especially when they talk about, you know, because yeah, that's they also put them on par with the wolf. You know, like it's supposed to be these predatory presences in fairy tales, which, you know, which I thought was just genius. But yeah, like that's and it really makes you think about that kind of stuff. Because dude, Red Riding Hood originally was very, like, you know, it was very messed up.
Yeah.
uh
Yeah.
you know, with especially with like different, you know, tellings and retellings, somehow like a lot of, you know, craziness just still makes it into the story. But it was so dark, very predatorial, and honestly just very sexual at times, because it's, you
Yeah.
know, I was watching, so if any of you know of this YouTuber, like I watch this guy named John Solo on YouTube, because he does a great job at analyzing stuff like stories, fables, and all that cool stuff. And you know, he knows a lot about the Arn Thompson classification system, and he can tell you like all these different versions throughout history, and like how they, you know what they keep, what they take, you know, take away from the story or stuff like that. But you know, he does a lot of those messed up origins, and I thought it's very awesome. But one thing that he said in Red Riding Hood is that many, like I think it's in France, I think, but one of the European countries, is that they use the term, you know, she hasn't met a wolf yet or something, when it, you know, when talking about their like, has she been deflowered by somebody who had, she, you know, who wasn't supposed to, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And you know, like it's kind of weird how a lot of that predatorial kind of stuff did come from Red Riding Hood. Like it wasn't just about to eat her; it was also like laying with her, and just like a lot of weird and
Well,
just
yeah, the wolf wasn't a wolf.
upright messed up. Yeah, no, it
Like,
wasn't. It's
yeah.
the cautionary tale of like, watch out for the, you know, these,
Watch
you
out
know,
for
these dangerous
these men.
men who will be nice to you. The wolf in sheep's clothing, for example.
Yeah.
You know, it's all this, I don't know, it's all this genius kind of like cautionary tales that were supposed to be, you know, like either to teach you a lesson by scarring you by telling it, or giving you some other sort of insight, or sometimes it was just done as a horror story that's not that wasn't originally meant for children until later.
Yeah.
But it's so awesome seeing this evolution of what these stories became.
Well, and to be honest, when it comes to the fairy tales, if you think about it, like from a genuine, like the beginning of fairy tales perspective, if you think about it like that, it probably was a lot tamer than what the Grimm's brothers, or Grimm brothers, I don't know.
The
Anyway,
Grimm brothers.
The
Yeah.
Grimm brothers. It's probably at least a little bit tamer than what the Grimm brothers wrote down. They exaggerated these stories to write them down.
Actually, they're the ones who sanitized most stories, because
Really?
yeah, well, it wasn't a time when they were trying to make them a little more Christian, but definitely sanitize them so to make them a little more child friendly. Like they still have some of the horrific aspects in there, but just to make it a little more child friendly for them to listen to. Back when, you know, it wasn't exactly geared for kids.
The reason
but
I think about it that way is because it probably was told at different points in a child's life. Like, I'm going to tell you Little Red Riding Hood as a little girl. And then, you know, when you hit 10, I'm going to tell you Little Red Riding Hood as a 10-year-old girl. And then when you hit 15, which is pretty much in that time when they were to be wed, which sounds weird, but actually 13. But anyway,
Different times.
Different times. When they hit that age, now I'm gonna tell you Little Red Riding Hood this way because you're about to be an adult and this is what you need to know. And so the story probably genuinely progressed a little bit into the more gruesome as the person that they were telling this story to progressed through life.
Yeah.
And so there is that as well. Yes, Brothers Grimm. That is correct. Thank you, Linz. I appreciate it. I always do the Grimm Bros. Grimm Bros!
No, I've heard of Grimm Brothers before.
Yeah, Grimm Brothers, the Brothers Grimm. Either way. But both are acceptable. I've heard it both ways.
Yeah, but also I like how a lot of these stories have actual historical backstory. Like for example, Snow White. There's definitely one in which
You did not miss the whole show, Speedy. Welcome in. Thank you so much.
we're actually, I don't know, we're almost at the halfway point, I think.
Yeah, we're just about halfway through.
It just made me realize I need to.
In order for that to go through Linz, it does need to be at the beginning of the sentence. I learned that it'll only recognize a command at the beginning. It'll recognize it if you do anything after it, but it won't recognize it in the middle, unfortunately. Well, thank you for all of you plugging my merch. But yeah, speaking of which, we do have an entire merch store, and by an entire merch store, I mean 4 very specific and unique and wonderful items. One of which is, of course, the mug that, since you guys came from Matt's stream, I assume that you've already seen the mug. Because Matt got his mug in today. I don't know if I told you that, Adrian, but Matt actually got his mug in, so that's super cool. And then we also have t-shirts, we have hoodies, and all kinds of craziness. So check that out. The question of the day, or rather the topic, is fairy tales. So what is